Williams, Arizona. Peters out going the other direction down there. About 6 blocks.
We just love these historic little towns, walking down the sidewalks, looking at the old brick and mortar structures, doing a little curio window shopping.
I like that one. Like the rattlesnake.
If you scoot by these on the interstate, there is so much that you miss. The Sultana Bar in Williams has the oldest running liquor license in the state of Arizona. This bar is also reportedly to be haunted, with activity in the basement and behind the structure where the first police chief was shot and killed. And to prevent that from happening again, no guns allowed, even for concealed weapon carriers. They do have some of the best barbecue in town.
Got the grill hanging from the window. Yep. Well, there's the Red Garter. The Mexican restaurant right next door. That's futile, huh? Bush deer. Vacuuming.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
The Red Garter is one of a handful of hotels that we run across that proudly accepts the fact that they might be haunted. The USA Today article, which describes it as a haunted hotel, hangs proudly in the lobby. Although still a skeptic himself, owner John Holst wants to hear all of your stories upon checking out. Other hotels that also permit and encourage ghost hunting are, of course, the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, the Queen Mary in Long Beach, Hotel Vendome in Hassayampa and Prescott, the Silver Queen and Goldfield hotels in Virginia City, and the Copper Queen in Bisbee. We can personally vouch that all of these have activity, except for the Hassayampa, which we have not done an investigation of yet. On the eastern seaboard, you could lump the Tilly Pierce in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, in there also. This structure was originally built by a German immigrant, August Tetzlaff, in 1897. The keystone is still on the front of the building. The 1910 census shows that August and his wife Annie had a tailor shop at what was at that time this address.
Oh, yeah.
It's
By the 1920 census, August and his wife Annie have disappeared from the records completely. They don't show up in the census or any other records involved in Williams. They may have gone back to Germany. The only way to accurately track the ownership of this building would be through county records, and Arizona was not made a state until 1912. Whether August retained hidden ownership or not, one thing is for certain, is that by prohibition, this building was being used as a brothel and illegal booze joint. A man by the name of Lugino Mora immigrated from Socorro, New Mexico to manage the establishment. He would stay on as manager until his death in 1938. However, in the 1910 census, he lists himself as a saloon bartender and not owner, so whether he ever owned the building or not is in question. In this photo, he stands with cane in hand as an old man in front of the Red Garter. The woman standing next to him is the madame of the establishment. Longino is buried in the Williams Cemetery. A somewhat famous photograph taken in 1934 shows Longino, his fifth wife Clara, and 25th daughter Carmina Layla standing in the downstairs area. What makes it unusual is that while everyone in the photo is solemn, there is a woman standing to the left in the photo who is grinning. It does not appear as though she fits in with the context of the photo. Neither does her reflection appear in the mirror behind her. However, upon analysis with software, I agree with other investigators before me that it's probably because this mirror is canted in such a way that the reflection is cast at an angle away from the direct line of vision of the viewer. But the photo is very odd, and the fact that there is no reflection cast does not rule out the possibility that this was a ghost selfie. After Longino's death, wife Clara and daughter Carmina Layla are still shown to be living in Williams in the 1940 census. In that census, they list the address of their home as the same as it was in 1935 when Longino was alive, and it was not the hotel, which means that they had a separate residence. Clara has of course been dead for many years, but the records show that Carmina is still alive at the age of 84. I kind of wondered if John Holst had ever tried to contact her directly and ask her what she thought of this picture, or if she was aware of any other activity that had transpired in the hotel during the years which she lived there as a child, but I was unable to reach John directly.
So if you come down tonight for a water or soda or anything out of the cooler, make sure you bring your key down, otherwise you'll be sleeping on the tables down here. But we just keep that fence off in case people are having a look around. They won't come up and bother you.
Okay.
I'll meet you at the top of the stairs. I'll follow you up.
During its brothel years, this stairway was known as the Cowboy Endurance Test.
Some of those goodies before you go, right?
Oh, yeah. Come down and see me, and we'll make sure you're all taken care of. All right. So we love notes if you have time. Or if you have the desire, we have all kinds of notes in right here. And
So, there's a room with a lady and...
Wow, what a place, huh?
Oh, nice.
so if you need anything else, I'll be downstairs, and you guys just come on down when you're ready for a snack.
Our train depot is right across the street there,
Yeah,
the Grand Canyon.
that's a train.
I love it. Well,
Brand new train.
let's go down and start bringing the stuff up, and this is the death stairway.
There's no elevator.
No, I wouldn't think so. We're coming.
You're fine.
Now, this is the stairway where somebody was stabbed to death, right?
And there's rumors that one of the girls took care of some extra business.
Mm-hmm.
As I began to make multiple trips to carry the equipment up, I began to wonder if this stairwell wasn't going to take a second victim. That's a walk up here, huh?
How come they didn't make that room like this? It's over Queen.
I don't know, you have to write him and ask him. Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
Probably all original. Our room was room number 1, the best gal's room, and it was beautiful inside. I took the camera out and photographed the other rooms, and they were all very well done. I would not hesitate to stay here again, even if I wasn't doing an investigation. This is room number 2, but it's back to back with ours. Room number 3, dual beds. Master bathroom with a tub. Very nice. Done a beautiful job of refinishing this place. That room is a dead door, doesn't go anywhere. Room number 4. Since we're here, it's important to point out for later on that the only switch to control this overhead chandelier is right here on the wall next to door number 2 and right outside of our door almost.
Boy.
One of the oddities that John Holst has noticed on the property is that these little motion detector lights on the side of the stairwell seem to go off on their own, as well as sometimes does the chandelier light. Here you can see them activated as Jan goes down the stairs. We set up our 4-wired cameras, the EMF detectors, and a Shure microphone, trying to overlap territory as much as possible. At 20 minutes before midnight on that first night, I was awakened by a very slow, low beeping noise. I checked around the room to try to see if it was some of my equipment, but I couldn't determine where it was coming from. It sounded like it had stopped, but at 1 o'clock, there it was back again. Cupping my ear and checking all of the equipment, I suddenly realized that it wasn't coming from in the room. It wasn't my equipment. It was coming from outside somewhere. It turned out to be the alarm clock in room number 2, the Madame's room, going off. Luckily, I remembered to prop the door open as I went out, or it would have shut automatically behind me, and I would have had to bang on it to wake Jan up to let me back in. I thought about it afterwards, and even though I was half asleep, it was kind of dumb to go outside and walk into another room in the middle of the night without having some kind of equipment with me in case I ran into something. I can only assume that a previous guest that had stayed into this room had set the alarm to put out some kind of ghost prank for the next tenant. This little bed and breakfast is ideally situated right across from the Grand Canyon Railway, which is what we came here to do, was to ride the train down to the Grand Canyon and to spend time investigating also. Not near as exciting as the Silverton Durango train up in Durango, Colorado, but it's still fun to ride the train. You can ride it down to the Grand Canyon. It's about a 2-hour ride each way from and to the canyon, and it wasn't cheap. Pretty cold even in April. Glad we're the Nevada State distributor for Pennsylvania Gator Skins Light Thermal products. We use that product on all of our hunts.
It's good.
Even the fake train robbery was fun.
You know what? You know what about tomorrow? You can't say you hadn't been robbed tomorrow.
Yeah, paid. Oh, not another one.
Let me on my
I've been robbed.
That thing's an
once.
antique.
Didn't you die already?
Sorry.
3 times.
Oh my God.
How about this ring too? We'll take that.
Oh no, that's not real. That's
Yeah, you gotta take a
That's
snot
worth
rag
something.
too.
What? We don't take snot. we wear our snot rag.
I know, but really, dressing up, playing cowboy.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, so to speak, the surveillance camera caught the chandelier light being turned on and off multiple times. We were told by John that somebody else would be staying in the hotel, so I'm assuming that's who it was, although I can't imagine why someone would want to play with the light over and over again. That's usually the kind of stuff that a kid would do, although there was no sound of children in the hallway. We were on the bed watching TV at the time, and from our vantage point, we cannot see the transom. So if I had been able to see it, I certainly would have opened the door and looked outside to try to determine what it was. The audio did pick up a door being shut, so it undoubtedly was a guest. According to the surveillance footage, this blinking light thing went on for half an hour, then it disappeared and never came back. That morning was very windy, and I'm assuming the wind set off the security system at the Poncho McGillicuddy's next door to the Red Garter, because at 1:15, here come the cops. A few seconds after the police car pulled up, we were awakened by one of the cell sensors going on.
Are you scared of the wind? Do it again.
Go ahead. I know you're in here. You just passed through. At least I know there's something here.
Hmm?
You're hearing voices outside.
There are people.
The police.
But this is damage. When damage. Police. Here it is again, honey. Hey! What are you?
Huh. It's reacting to the police downstairs, I'm guessing.
What's happening downstairs?
I don't know. It's a police car there, though. I don't see the officer.
Where is he?
I don't know. That's apparently what the millimeter is reacting to, or the cell sensor, I mean. Cell sensor is going off because of the conversation down there. Wow, that's really some strong wind going on, though. You know, isn't it?
Yeah, what is park in front of the door?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's the first activity we've had in the room. That shows there's a little bit of something. I don't know exactly what it is. This millimeter's still working here. Yep, still working. It's not moving at all.
So, what's causing this cell sensor to go off when the other cell sensors in the room, there are 5 altogether, are not going off at all? My first guess was that it was somehow defective, but upon arriving home I tested all of them and they worked within the compliance of which they were made. These cell sensor units will react to radio frequency, what's called RF, as it consists of waves of electric and magnetic energy moving through space. The waves are generated by the movement of electrical charges. Undoubtedly, the radio in the police cruiser, as well as the handheld unit that the officer carries, put out a strong signal. However, the key word here is that radio frequency moves in waves. Since they move in waves, for one unit to go off, all of the units in the room should have been going off at the same time. Here is a cell sensor unit right here that is not registering while the one in the background is. I take great care in making certain that the coils are all aligned in the same direction during setup. Due to the propagation of radio frequency waves, and that means its movement properties, and its ability to flow along curved surfaces, it is possible that this smokestack right here that's connected to the fireplace and going up into the roof was acting as a kind of external antenna, that the radio frequency was hitting it and it was flowing down along the outside of it to the unit. However, these units are not able to scan. They can't pick up a particular frequency like an FM radio. They can only pick up electromagnetism of the frequency, which means that that electromagnetism is still bound by what is known as Planck's constant. The shape and mass of a nearby body affect the strength and geometry of the field. But by Planck's constant relating to electromagnetic fields, the power of the RF radiation will rapidly decrease with the distance from the source. Assuming that that detector going off was due to the specific propagation properties of that wave, are about as far-reaching as assuming that it was a self-contained electromagnetic field. As paranormal investigators, I prefer to believe that it was the field, and it does appear to be so. It would appear as though something outside was producing a trigger object to cause that detector to go off, and that activity was at that part of the room. Trigger object, my guess, would be the police uniforms. We know the police used to collect the tributes from the girls when they were here. Kind of like pimps with a badge, they collected a percentage from the madame. I don't believe this souvenir badge that you can find at some of the gift shops is authentic, but the position certainly was. It would have been the same uniformed constables that also investigated the death of a John being stabbed on the stairway, and that would later end up closing the establishment down in the 1940s and putting all of the girls out of work. After the police cruiser incident, I slept very lightly. A couple of hours after it left at 3:14 in the morning, I was awakened by a very loud noise from downstairs. I know it was downstairs because I wasn't sleeping that heavy. It definitely didn't come from the adjoining rooms. When I spoke to the owner about it the next morning, he told me that that would be about the time that the people came in to make the pastries. It doesn't sound like a door, more like something heavy being dropped. Usually when I slow the sound down to 50%, if it's a door, I can hear the latch as it clicks. In this instant, you don't hear it. Yeah, it's definitely something flat and heavy hitting the floor. The sound almost reminded me of what a small caliber gun would sound like through the floorboards. But perhaps the workers were just being noisy. What any workers downstairs could not have been responsible for, or for that matter, anything else to be responsible for, was that within an hour after the police cruiser left and before whatever it was hit the floor downstairs, 3 of the cell sensor units beeped once or twice enough to wake me up. Unfortunately, all 3 of them were in areas of the room that was not covered by surveillance. This is what we refer to as a flyby. It shows that an electromagnetic field strong enough to set the cell sensor unit off passed over the coil probe and caused the unit to activate. Whatever it was moving so quickly that the unit could only react to it with 1 or 2 beeps. These cell sensor units were designed to detect the amount of radiation being produced by cell phones and to determine any electromagnetic fields that were produced on construction sites from unshielded or improperly grounded wires. A lot of paranormal investigators have stopped using them as they feel that the range of 50 to 60 Hz that they normally collect data in is much too high. Most paranormal activity has been determined to be in a lower frequency, down between 0 and 20 Hz, when it's able to be captured by an oscilloscope. We feel, however, that we have already collected enough data to support the theory that the frequencies for paranormal activity regarding EMF oscillate up and down through a bell curve kind of frequencies. These units will detect them if the unit is set to absolute 0 and left alone. We sleep much better with them in the rooms when we are on site. They are basically our alarm system. There was a lot of odd stuff that happened in this hotel that we both encountered and recorded. Most of it could be attributed to another source other than paranormal. The only thing that we feel cannot be attributed to a source other than paranormal was the flybys that we had, which leads me to believe that the incident with the EMF cell sensors going off when the police officer there was also paranormal. One thing's for certain, if we came back here to do another investigation, we'd want more coverage. You know, the rooms aren't that expensive that a group could get together during the slow season and perhaps rent out the hotel for a couple of 3 days with them staying there so they could do the hallways, all of the rooms at once. That's just a suggestion for some aspiring ghost hunters. One other thing that's for certain, if I was to stay in the best gal's room again, I definitely want to position a mirror so that I could see the transom from the bed and be able to go outside and catch whoever it was that was turning the lights on and off, or disprove that there was anyone out there at all. There is activity here, but without a much more lengthy investigation, at least at this time, we have to give the Red Garter an activity level rating of low and sporadic.